Hey guys, how you going? My name is VaulSC. Hope that you are doing well. Today I'm going to take you through a tutorial which is going to be all about how to take one of these Infinity tabletop miniature in real life, and I'm going to show you how to turn it into this, a 3D model that you can be using in Tabletop Simulator to play games of Infinity with. So we'll take you through the start to finish process of how to get it from real life into there. So first of all, and probably most prominently and most importantly, there is a written version of this tutorial which many of you will want to follow instead of watching this video. Not everybody likes just sitting there listening to me talk for ages, so there is another way. You can go to the website of our friend Vokuhila, aka Daniel, and it is at www.dicefromhell.de/tutorials. The link is in the video description. And once you go there, you can see there's a bunch of links to the different parts of the tutorials. So, how to build a turntable from scratch. I have my own one right here. So the point of this is to have something which your model can actually sit on top of. And what you're going to be doing is taking a photo of the thing, swiveling a little bit, taking a photo, swiveling a little bit more. And what he's done is he's actually created a tutorial about how to make one of these. It's really good. Or you can just build a really crappy one like I have. And then there's the three main sections of it. Obviously how to actually do a really good photo job of it. He's given you some tips and tricks there. And then getting it into Zephyr, which is part of the stage. There's also the Blender stage, which we'll talk about soon. And of course Unity and everything there to get it into TTS. Another thing you guys are going to need to do at some point is to actually install the software we're going to be using. So we're going to be using Zephyr, and it will be using the the free version of the program. One restriction of it being a free version of the program is that you can only use a maximum of 50 images to make your miniature. So that's the reason why we'll be taking 50 photos of each miniature. To be honest though, even though you could spend money to get the full version, we've found that you just don't need to, because 50 photos is more than enough. Sometimes we get away with just 20 or 30 photos to make a model with. And to be honest, if you really did want to splash out and buy the program and use like 70, 80, 100 photos, it would really just slow down the processing time, because the software's actually got to run and capture everything, and I think you'd just really be slowing yourself down with the full version. Another thing you're going to need to do is to install Unity, but not any version of Unity, a specific previous version of it, and you'll have to get the asset bundles folder for TTS, because TTS is all about importing from something that's been created from Unity. So although my tutorial won't really cover off how to install all of these programs, the links are available here, and the tutorials are all available from our website here, or from our friend's website, which I'd recommend you taking the time to follow. I did find it a little bit of a struggle getting my version of Unity up and running, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Now the other link in this, the video description of this YouTube video will be to a folder that I've prepared on Google Drive called Tutorial 3D Infinity TTS. This is a publicly available folder containing 50 photos of a ninja. What you should be able to do is go and select them all and download them and unzip that, and you'll have a folder with 50 images that I've pre-prepared. There's two reasons why I've done this. Reason number one is that if you want to get started and you want to follow the tutorial and practice it, but you don't have any painted miniatures on hand, you don't have a decent photo camera on hand, you haven't actually got your equipment set up to make the right images with the turntable, you can still get started with my Practice Ninja if you want to. So that's one reason. Reason number two is that one thing I'm going to talk about with this tutorial leading to our community project is that there will be some of you who won't want to do the stage involving the photography or the painting of the miniatures. So you might not have any decently painted miniatures, you might not have a decent camera, you might not have the time to do it, but you may be willing to help us process the miniatures from that stage. A few people who watched my last video have already come to me saying, yes, I'd like to help. What you guys can do right now, if you want to be part of the team on this, is you could download these 50 photos of the ninja. You could take them right through to the end of the tutorial where you create an asset bundle, and you could email me the asset bundle you created to prove that you're capable of actually getting it through to that stage. I'll check it out, make sure we can get that onto TTS, and then what we can do is involve you in the project by giving you access to folders on Google Drive that are full of people's miniatures that have been photographed, and you could process them for us, hand over the asset bundle, or even host it yourself in TTS, and that would be an immense help. It would actually really speed up the process of getting people's models into TTS, and we'll have heaps of models to use if we have a few people doing that, because although the photography takes ages, some of the processing takes a while as well. Cool, all right, very exciting. So those are a few things to bear in mind, but hey, I mean, if you don't want to watch the rest of this video, you can just get started with the online version. I will, however, be adding a lot of commentary and doing a lot of screen capture demonstrations of how this works, so watching the video as well should be helpful for a lot of people. Now, just a quick word further about this overview. So, whoops, just move my camera in the right direction here. So obviously, step one, purchase, assemble, and paint your miniature completely. That is obvious. Many of you have already completed this step. Congratulations. For those of you who don't have models, don't have access to borrow anybody's models, this tutorial is not going to be for you. This is not about creating models from scratch within a 3D modeling program. It's about photogrammetry. And above all, guys, support Corvus Belli and buy their models. I can't stress that enough. I mean, every time they release new models, we're going to have to buy them and paint them in order to be able to use them as TTS pieces. So that's a positive thing. A few people have already said to me, yep, I'm actually going to buy more stuff because it'll be cool to get it into TTS, which is amazing. If you don't have the models but can borrow them off your friends, great. If you have models but somebody else can photograph them for you, great. There's a few different ways of doing that. Stage 2, take 50 photographs of your model at good, clear quality from appropriate angles. So as soon as I got into this project, I went out and bought one of these. This is a Canon EOS DSLR camera. I'm going to be using it for my bat reps as well. It's pretty awesome. What you're going to be wanting to do in the photo stage is basically, you'll have your turntable sitting like this, and you'll have the light on it as well, and you'll take a photograph from pretty much like ground level, and the point is to be able to see some of the undersides of the object. Then you'll do another 25 photos from further up, and what you've got is you've got this turntable with the angles marked out, so you're just giving it a little turn after each photo so that you've taken exactly 25 photos on the first rotation. Then there'll be another 25 photos on the second rotation. Then we're going to go through to 3ds Zephyr, which is this thing, free program which you are going to process all of your photos from. This process takes ages if you are using a potato as a computer. If you don't have good hardware, it's going to take a long time, which is why we will be asking people for help. But if you have a really powerful computer, it's not that bad at all. Then we're going to go into Blender, where we're going to attach the base to the model, and then finally Unity over here. Then, of course, we're going to get it into TTS. But the point that I'm trying to make over and over and over again is that it may be possible for some people to do some of these stages, but not others. That's really important. And one thing I've been doing with Axel's stuff is that he's been doing steps 1 and 2, handing it over to me as photos. I've been doing the rest of the steps. Some of you guys will do all except for the last couple of them, and that's okay as well. Right, so let's talk about the photo stages of it. I'm just going to show you a quick image of what my first attempt at this looked like. This is a photo of my bedroom floor, and there is a empty wine case, because you guys know I drink wine all the time. This is before the lockdown, where I had to I'll stock up on a bunch of them. Anyway, what I've done is I've basically just cut a hole in the top of that box, and then I've just managed to slot this thing in. This is like part of a cardboard tube, which is actually just stuck to the bottom of it, and I've printed out the template that you can see on the website. Bought myself an LED light, and obviously that lights it up, and the black background there is just like a heater. I even tried draping a black t-shirt over it at one point, so that's the sort of ghetto version of doing it. But if you go into this website, you can actually follow the steps for the creating a turntable. He's got a PDF you can print out, which actually has a really good turntable sheet. So rather than using one that looks like mine, you do it the professional way, and you'll have a much more stable, nicer looking turntable to use. So I'm sort of demonstrating how not to do it, but if we have a look at our friend Axel, this is a much more professional setup, as you can see, right? So he's got a much better camera than I do. It's on a tripod. It's attached to this controller here. He's got a really good black backdrop. There's the lighting equipment there, and you can see his black turntable. The reason why you want the background to be dark and black is that the software is going to recognize the lit parts of the miniature and the parts that it can see. But if your photographs don't capture certain bits of the underside of the model, the software has to sort of guess and approximate what that's going to look like. And what it tends to do is just pulls in colors from elsewhere in the image, which is why the undersides of some of my models in TTS look white, whereas Axel's look black. Just to give you a demonstration of that, if we come to this ninja here, you can sort of see there's bits of white on the edge of its sword and under near its leg, just around the bottom here, and especially some of my worst products over here. Like you can see little bits of white sticking out underneath this hungry tiger creature. If you come over to Axel's though, if we have a careful look at this diva, if I just go right down here and just swivel around, you can see little bits of black next to its arms and underneath, around about sort of its arms. And the reason for that is the way that he's actually got this this black backdrop here, and the turntable is mostly black. Whereas if you look at my setup, you can see that it's white and there's red around, and that's impacting how the actual photos turn out and how the software renders that. Coming back to the Ninja, so you can sort of see, and you will have downloaded these files, this set of 50 photos went through Zephyr without any problem, everything rendered fine, but sometimes you'll get some images failing to load because they're a little bit too blurry. If I just come through here and I find some examples, let's go down to the Ninja. I can actually bring them up for you. So this is done with this Canon EOS camera. And you can see that the bow isn't really in focus here. As I sort of move through them, parts of the model are really in focus and others aren't. Whereas if you take a look at some of Axel's ones, everything is really clear. And that's why this is going to be hard to do with just a cell phone camera. You can do it and you can try it, but it might take a bit longer. By the way, as you can see, I've moved to the second set of 25 photos where they're from a further height. We scroll around, and this is allowing the software to capture the bits of the miniature which are further up, right? If I actually just close this and I go over to some of the ones that I saved from Axel, let's take a look at his Asura, which I did recently. So we'll open up this, and this is the product of this kind of setup, right? So it's black in the background, the lighting's correct, and look at that. You can see how crystal clear everything is. And as I move through it, you've got one set of photos from the base here, and of course the colored dots around the base to help the software determine reference points. And he's keeping the whole miniature in focus right the way through the process. And I'm just using my mouse wheel to scroll through. And here's the second set of 25 from the upper angle, just capturing the tops of its head, the back of its hair, that kind of thing. And if we go back into TTS, the result of that is pretty obvious. You look at this thing, and like all of the texture is just perfectly crystal clear. There's very few black spots except for underneath the gun and the leg, but it just looks like a natural shadow anyway. And you look up close on the face, there's definition on the nose. From a distance, it just looks really, really appealing and very clearly recognizable as an Asura. So that's kind of what we're going to be going for. So again, it's acceptable to do it the way I have and have models which are kind of like passable and decent from a distance, but you can see the difference between the best result and the sort of average result that I've been able to create, and a lot of that will happen during the photography stage. So I don't want to talk too much more about the photography. If you guys really want to get this right, do have a look at the tutorial here, because it'll actually give you some tips about camera settings and distance and the turntable. but you should be able to get through, and once you've got 50 decent photos, you can hand them over to us for scanning, or you can scan them yourself, and that will basically get you through stage 2. Take 50 photographs of your model at a good clear quality from appropriate angles, and then what we can do is we can go to the next step, which involves Zephyr. So download and install the free version of Zephyr and open it, and you'll get to this screen here. And what you want to go to do is workflow, new project. The wizard will guide you through it. And one thing that I want to say about Zephyr is that when you go through a project, you choose a lot of different settings, and the one thing I love about it is that it keeps your settings there for the next time around. If you're just watching my video tutorial and not using the online one, you're probably going to have to pause the YouTube video to see what settings I have, because I'm not going to explain them. However, if you go to the online tutorial and go through here, you'll get to a point where he's actually giving you screenshots of what the settings are. I recommend the first time you go through Zephyr, just use the website tutorial to pick out the advanced settings for everything, because after you've done that once, every time you come through it after that, you'll have the exact settings to choose. Right, so here I am. I'm going through to the part where it selects photos, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to our Ninja, which you will have downloaded as well. So I'll find my version of the Ninja. There it is there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. One thing that happens, by the way, and when I'm doing the photos, is that I'll do like 52 or 53 photos, because I may have sort of held the shuttered thing down and taken the image, but I've seen that it was blurry, so I take another one straight after that, and then after I've brought them onto the computer, I'll just go and look through them all, delete the ones that were blurry, so I've got 50 remaining, and then import them in. So I've selected them all. I'm going to drag and drop into Zephyr, and here they are. So I'll hit next, and it's just going to pick up the information about the camera. Hit next. I'm on the advanced settings here. I've chosen these options, so the tutorial will show you how to do that. Hit next and hit run. So this process will take a while. If you don't have a very good computer, it's going to take ages. But if you do have a good computer, it won't take that long. I'm going to hit cancel, because I'm not going to make you guys wait like 10-15 minutes or whatever it takes on my computer to actually complete this step. Instead, so that we can move on with the tutorial, I'm going to just basically open a saved version of what we're working on. So I'm going to go up to open. So I've got a saved version of Zephyr to show you what the project will look like after you've waded through that. So go make yourself a cup of tea, and then come back, and you will be at the stage where it's created a sparse point cloud. Isn't that cool? By the way, in the written tutorial, it will sort of show you what it will look like after you've completed the photos. You'll get a screen looking like this where it shows you that the photos have been oriented. Sometimes you'll get a red no show up, and you can look at what image it had a no for, and then go find that image in your folder, and that may give you some clues as to why that image wasn't accepted. Why wasn't it working? Was your angle bad? Was it too blurry? What was the problem? In this case, though, we've got 50 photos being used, which is ideal. If you scroll out, you can actually see the blue camera points here, showing you the angle the actual camera came in from, which is really cool. You can see two sets of orbits there, one for the lower angle, one for the higher. To move around the workspace, by the way, what I'm doing is I'm left-clicking and holding left-click to pivot around like that, or I'm left-click holding the mouse wheel to pan around, and that will allow you to move in. You can, of course, mouse wheel to zoom in, and that just takes a little bit of getting the hang of. But you won't really do any editing or work at this stage. You'll come straight up to workflow, hit 3D model generation, and then there'll be a number of steps again through the advanced settings where you choose the right settings. I've already done that. The tutorial will show you exactly what to choose there, and then you click run. This stage will also take a long time, so I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel and abort. So you'll sit there and you'll go make yourself another hot drink, or walk around the block, or do whatever you need to do depending on how quick your computer is. But I'm going to open up a version of the project showing the mesh stage, and after you have come back and everything's rendered, we get the wonderfully gratifying and satisfying experience of seeing our model looking like this. So the computer, the software, has picked up part of my turntable that I took it on, and it's put this amazing looking Ninja into 3D space, which is just so cool the first time you see it. So I'm just swiveling around looking at it. Again, we come back and see. Looks just like this. So what the image is doing, what the software is doing, is it's getting rid of the background and it's just taking what it can out of the bottom part of this. And here we are. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to clear some of this up. First step, I'm just going to right-click somewhere, an empty space over here. So right-click camera and go to view from, go to top. Brings me to the top, zoom in a little bit more and pan over here with holding down the middle mouse button. I'm going to go by hand for editing, then select elliptic. I'm going to left click and hold left click in the middle here and then drag, so that's going to create a circle around my model. I'm going to make sure to make it big enough so that it's including any swords or bows or things sticking out of, you know, the base area, and I'm going to wait, and the system will eventually highlight that area from top down like a big cylinder. It's almost like a silhouette. Then I'm going to go up to invert, because I want to select everything but the ninja in the middle portion. So then I can delete, and that's just going to clear out everything but that selection. So I'm going to close this. Left click somewhere and just swivel down to bring me down over here, somewhere like to the side. I'm going to zoom in a bit, hold down middle mouse button just to recenter this. Then I'm going to go to a plane on the editing. That's going to create this thing. I'm going to find the middle blue rod here, and the upper blue rod. I'm going to hold down left click and drag it. It's going to bring the plane right down to the middle of the base somewhere, so that it's actually submerging all of the disc and then just dropping it like that. And then what I'm going to do is update. So it's now going to select everything above the plane, shown in red there. I'm going to invert that because I want to delete everything below that plane. And I'm going to hit delete. And now we have a clearer mesh to work with. There's still going to be some stuff that we want to prune off though. So if I go up to by hand on the top right, so there's a little bit floating in space. I'm going to make a box around that. It's going to select it. I'm going to hit delete. There's a little floaty over here as well. I'm going to delete that. Same with this little part of the base. I'm going to come in here and just carefully swipe that off. Just close this so I can navigate around. I think there's a little bit here next to the bow, so I'm just going to zoom in on that. Chop that out. Now, one thing you can do is you can actually cut parts out of the mesh itself. As I was working on some of these models, there was just so much gunk in the way down here that I actually had to prune it off. One thing you can do is get out, say, the by hand tool, and come up here and click lasso. And if you wanted to, you could actually strip off part of the sword like this and delete that. The problem with doing that though is it'll actually cut a hole in your mesh, and as you're looking at it in TTS, you might see a bit of an ugly sort of hole there. So only do that if you really have to. The perfectionists out there will never do that. They'll probably just redo the entire photography process, but for me sometimes I do resort to cutting that little bit out. But other than that, once you're happy with the cleaned result of your model, you're then going to come over to the mesh over here. You're going to right click it and go filter, and we're going to go re-topology, and we're going to just click, once you've got the settings correct, clone and apply filter. I'm actually going to hit cancel on that because that may take a little while, and I'm just going to come up to a saved version of the project so we can move on, where it's step 3, where it's just re-topologized. Everything's smoothed out. Okay, so we now have a filtered version of our mesh. We're going to filter it again. So I'm going to go to left clicking this, the filtered 1 version, right click it, filters, decimation. Now this stage is to reduce the size of the vertices or the polygons or whatever down to 25,000 because I'm told that Tabletop Simulator won't accept a model that is too big. So if we make a really highly detailed model, Tabletop Simulator just won't like that, and we won't be able to get it in there. So that's why we're just decimating and reducing it down, compressing it down to 25,000. That'll give us this. Alrighty, so coming up to File, Workflow, Textured Mesh Generation, click on that. Next, and we'll go run. That should be pretty quick. Well, I'm just going to hit cancel just because it may take a while, and I'd rather just open a saved project. Hopefully the noise of the works outside is not coming through into the tutorial. If so, too bad. Open textured mesh. Here we go. Discard the changes. So after you complete that textured mesh project, you'll get this. Then what we can basically do is export it. So we're just about done with Zephyr. I'm going to left click this, right click it, export. Export format needs to be object/mtl. Then you go export this, and we're going to find a place to put it. So where am I going to put this? Just out in my 3D project folder. I'm just going to call it Ninja Shoot, and I'm going to save it. Done. One thing you might also like to do is go up to File, Save As, and just save this project in case you want to come back to it if something's gone wrong. But we are now finished the Zephyr stage, so I'm just going to go and minimize that. Next up, we're going to come to Blender. So we've basically gone through to step 3, we're in step 4 now, and the purpose of the Blender stage is mainly to get it onto the base. So this is Blender. It's a free program which you will hopefully have installed. This is what it looks like when it starts. Again, you can navigate by holding down the middle mouse button, swiveling around. You can hit G to grab stuff. I've fortunately gone through some tutorials on Blender, but you may need to take some time to familiarize yourself with it. To start with, I'm going to delete the box. I'm also going to come up to the collection up here, left click the light, right click, delete it, delete the camera as well, and then I'm going to go to File and Import wavefront.obj. Then I'm going to navigate to wherever we kept our Ninja Shoot. It'll be in the same folder as the MTL file. Leave that there. I'm just going to click on the object. And over the, this is quite important here, on the right hand side where it says forward, like the transform, I'm going to take -x forward as the forward, and Z up as the upwards coordinates. So import that, and it's going to bring our Ninja in here. There it is there. So it's going to look all white and gray. That's because of the view pane setting we've got. So I'm gonna, if I come up to the little thing here which says Viewport Shading Material Preview, I can click on that and it will give us a better look at what the Ninja's like. There you go. Just want to draw your attention to the number pads. So if I go 1, that's going to go from side on, 2 from underneath, 3 from the other side. I'm mostly going to use 1 and 3 during this tutorial, but you can use the other buttons to easily get to different angles and just hotkey to them. So if I go to number 1 and then hold down mouse click the middle mouse wheel and just swivel it back here, we've got the Ninja in there. Next we need the base. So what you will have needed to do is to go into the online tutorial here, and there will be a point in the tutorial where you can actually download our pack, our folder of actual 3D TTS standard base size. So here they are. So you find the link in section 2.3b, download that, and you'll have that saved somewhere in your folder. So we go back to Blender, and you go File, Import Wavefront Object, and then we'll go to our custom base folder. 25mm, of course, is for the Silhouette 2 stuff and Silhouette 1s. There's also the S3 and S5, S6. We've got the tag-sized and S4 size motorbike bases as well. And if you have a Marguerite Bagard, we've got that for you as well. But for this one, for the Ninja, I'm going to go to 25mm, select Object. Again, you can change the forward and up transformation so that it comes in correctly, but I'm going to do it incorrectly just so I can show you a step of the process, which I quite like. So import that. There's a base in here now, so I'm going to hit number 1, and that's going to show me side on. And one thing you can do here is you can transform it. If I just left click somewhere else in the thing, it'll deselect the base, but if I click this again, it's going to select just the base part. There's 2 parts though. So there's the base front. We'll talk about why that's important later for the line of fire facing, and the S2 base mesh itself. I need to have both of them selected, so base and front badge. Then I'm going to move my mouse out here, and I'm just going to hit the R button on the keyboard, like R for Romeo, and that's going to allow me to rotate this. If I rotate it to a point where I'm not happy with it, just right click, that'll return it to where it is. So R, move it around, right click, you're back to normal. If you left click, that'll set it in place. So if I go R and then move it around, I'm just going to move it perfectly in line with this little red thing here. You don't really have to do this, but I find this is really satisfying to try and achieve. So if I just zoom in a bit more, I've just left clicked, hit R again, and then just going to get it perfectly where it needs to be. It's like a little game. You just slow down a tutorial while we all watch me try and get it in place. There we go. So our base is perfectly in place. I'm zooming out with my mouse wheel. Left click on the ninja. So now if I hit the G button for grab, I can move this around anywhere. Right click returns it, left click puts it in place. So G for grab, left click puts it up here. If I just grab it and move it just on top of the base, you can see it's around about to scale. If I hit the 3 button on the number pad, that'll move, look from the other dimension, other angle. So I'm just going to move this into position as well. Note that it's a little bit off kilter. So what I can do again is I can left click the ninja, hit the R button for rotate, and we can get the top of the base a little bit more level along with the grid. That's a bit nicer. So that's a bit clearer. Now if I hit grab again, move it down to the top of this base, just so that you want the top surface of the base just coming above the black area of the TTS base, and then go to 1. It's around about in the right position. So it's just a little bit poking out through the TTS space. Next, what I'm going to do is make sure the ninja's selected, left click, and then I'm going to hit S for scale. This can make it really big or really small. And the plan here is just to get it perfectly so it's just not clipping so much in here. Perfect. So it's almost there. And the only thing wrong with it now is that it's just sort of submerged a little bit too much underneath the base. So again, I've got it selected. I'm going to hit Z. So I'm going to hit G for grab, but then I'm going to hit the Z key, which is going to force the movement of it to only a vertical angle. Now if I move it to like there, it's sticking out of the top of the base perfectly. Only problem with that is, though, there are some smaller bits where the lower part of the model is actually protruding from the base. So to fix that, I am now going to go into the ninja selected, make sure it's not the base but the ninja. I'm going to go from object mode top left down to edit mode. I'm going to hit the 1 button on the keypad just to come down side on, and I'm going to zoom in. Then I'm going to go up to the viewport settings and change this to viewport shading wireframe. And I'm going to make sure I've got this little X-ray button here with the little squares, that's selected as well. Then I'm going to make a box, drag and drop a box right through this. And that's going to select all the vertices of the lower part of the mesh, and I'm going to just hit delete, bam, and delete vertices. And that's going to clear everything off. Then I'm going to go back up to object mode, back to, what is this thing called, material preview. I'm going to use my middle mouse button, holding it down to pivot and move out like this. And voila, just clicking away from the miniature, it has removed the bottom part of that base, and we have a model that looks like an actual real model because it's connected to the TTS space, and the TTS space is going to standardize it and make it compatible with everything we've got in TTS in terms of the actual physical size. Wonderful. Okay, so that's looking really, really good. Now, here's a step that you cannot forget to do. We have to select the ninja and the base and the front badge up here. So I'm just left-clicking on it, holding down Shift, clicking through the other ones. Make sure all 3 of those objects are collected and selected and highlighted. Then we're going to go up to File, Export, FBX. So .fbx, make a FBX file. Now, I'm going to save it in a very special place. I'm just going to navigate to Desktop, go into my 3D project, go into the thing called TTS mod. One thing you're going to have to do as part of this tutorial is to download the TTS mod file folder package from their site. I think it's on GitHub actually, and you're going to have to store it somewhere in your hard drive. And once you've done that, navigate to wherever you stored it. And just keep going through until you get to the point where it's showing you this list. You'll see assets, you'll see examples, and you want to put your model somewhere in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up to new folder. I'm going to make a folder specifically for my ninja. I'm just going to call it Ninja Shoot. And then you're going to have to choose some settings here. So path mode on the right is going to be changed to copy. Selected objects, active collection selected. You're going to choose mesh. And that's the only thing you need to touch there. So copy, selected objects, active collection, and mesh. And then you're going to hit export. Then you should be done with Blender. So we're through to part 5, which is Unity. Now, to say a few more things about Unity, again, it has to be a specific version of Unity. Apparently, future versions after that weren't right for getting stuff into TTS. When I went ahead and actually tried to install Unity, I ran into a couple of problems. There was one point where it was asking me to register and get a license. What you need to do is make sure you have the Unity hub. So first of all, you make sure you get the correct version of Unity. I think it's this one here, 2019.1, although don't quote me on that. You want to make sure that you get the 2019.1.0 F2, and make sure you get the hub for it as well. The hub will allow you to create this project based on the TTS mod file. Honestly, I'm not very good at explaining this part. I do recommend just going through the online version of this tutorial and obviously the TTS explanation here in the custom asset bundle page. Do check out the links in my video description to get here. But the point is, you want to be able to get the correct version of Unity up and running. You can create a personal account, which is free, which allows you to get the license sorted out. And then you'll eventually get into this screen here, which is a version of Unity which is quite old, but exactly what we need. So I'm going to move my my face back over to here. Just going to make this a bit smaller. And on the left hand side here you can see a directory which is not like within Unity. This is actually showing a directory within your hard drive. So under examples, we're going to come down to the folder we made for Ninja Shoot. Where are we going to find it? Examples. Oh, here it is here. So we're going to grab the Ninja Shoot and left click on this thing, drag it out into the field. Hopefully I've done this correctly. I did move a few things around before the tutorial. It's got the custom base and the Ninja Shoot there, but we should be looking for, yeah, the Ninja Shoot FBM file is there, so we should be alright. So we've got the Ninja out here. If I left click on the Ninja, it's going to be highlighted blue. We get these options up the top right. If I click away from it, it takes that away. Don't accidentally double click because that turns it orange and actually affects only a certain part of that. So I'm going to click away. Make sure we click this once so we've got the entire thing selected as blue. Then without much creativity here, we're just going to go to the position, select all that, change it to 0, Z0, Y0, Z0, scale, change it to 0.4, 0.4, 0.4. This is going to standardize things and make sure that the size of the Ninja and the size of the base is going to be perfect for TTS. And that's all you need to do. Click away from it. Again, you can hold down right click to move this around, hold down middle mouse button to pan around. The settings are slightly different from Zephyr and Blender, but you don't need to reposition yourself much. The process we're doing is not going to be particularly creative. It's more of just an admin process. Come up to game object, left click that, left click 3D or hover a 3D object, come down to cylinder, creating a cylinder. So we're going to reposition this. The cylinder is already selected. Top right, we're going to go to position 0. Y, we're going to go 0.1, Z 0. Scale X 0.7, Y 0.1, Z 0.1. Okay, so that's going to rescale, resize our cylinder. Then I'm going to click on the tab here for Mesh Renderer. I'm going to right click and remove it. Left click Capsule Collider, right click, remove it. Add component, Physics, Mesh Collider, bam. Oh, sorry, I've made a mistake here. Where it says Z for scale, I've made that 0.1. It's supposed to be 0.7. That's why it looked all wonky. Alright. If I go over to the left-hand menu and just click on cylinder so it's selected, and we just zoom in a little bit, I'm just going to pan down here. Let me just talk about this. So we're creating a collider. So that green mesh-looking wheel thing you can see there is what's going to determine the size of it in your games of Tabletop Simulator. Once we import this into TTS, you'll notice that if you left-click the edge of the base of the Ninja, nothing will happen and you won't select it. But if you click this coin-shaped object, which is going to be invisible in the middle of the Ninja, it's going to select it. It's also going to mean that if you move the Ninja up near to a wall or another image, it's going to actually clip a little bit into the wall or the other model. And that's going to be so helpful to us as TTS players because we want to be able to demonstrate to our opponent that we're in base contact with cover or another miniature. So this will help us to do that. Notice also that when you bring in bigger models like a tag or a motorbike, if you choose 0.7 as the scale here, it's still going to create this very tiny coin in the middle of a very large base. So I actually like to make this a bit bigger. When I'm working with Silhouette 3, I like to do 1.2, sometimes 1.7 if it's a really big base. You'll be able to have a play around with that yourself and make sure that the model is just a little bit smaller than, the collide is a little bit smaller than the actual model. Sometimes you can also get the 0.1 positions wrong. If you do that and you load it into TTS, it's going to hover off the ground, and you don't really want that. So position 0.1, scale 0.1, and it should fit. Okay, over the top left here where we see this little blue box that says Ninja Tute with the 3 objects in it, we're going to left click Ninja Tute, going to right click and select Unpack Prefab. That's going to allow you to bring the mesh cylinder inside the group. So I've got it to left click with the left click button held down, and as you see, if you hover over one of these things, it's going to try and put it in with that, but if you see the little blue line, it's going to put it in between stuff. So I'm going to drop it there. Now this part will rank the parts of the object. So we've got the front badge, which is going to be the strip showing us line of sight, the base itself, then we've got the Ninja model, and then there's the collider. So what we're going to do is click front badge first, hold down left click, drag it to the top, and rather than having it like this, I'm going to find the little blue line here, which is going to put it in between 2 other things, drop it, move the base up here, drop that in between, the cylinder right above the Ninja tutorial, and we want this order. So front badge first, base second, cylinder next, Ninja tutorial like this. If you don't do it this way, you will end up with a situation like the one I showed you the other night, where you've got this guy over here, and because this guy, the mesh model, is actually at the top of the list, if you right click him and go color tint and you choose some other color, it's just going to tint the entire model, which is not really what you want. What you really want is to have a model here where you right click it and you go color tint and you change that to yellow, and that's going to change the actual tint of the base strip. And that's really important because a Ninja can work for JSA or Akari or Yuching or Imperial Service, and you may want to be able to have the same model here but differentiate the faction by the strip at the bottom, if that makes sense. Cool? So back to Unity, we've got a list ready to go. I'm just going to click on Ninja Tute and close that. And I'm going to come down to the file directory and find the folder that says Prefabs. Then going to go back up to Ninja Tute, hold down left click and just carefully drag it right down here to the Prefabs folder. This time I'm not going to put it in between anything. I'm going to put it on the Prefab folder itself. Drop. The Ninja is now in the Prefabs folder. If I then click on Ninja Tute, there is a option down the bottom right. I'm going to click None and change that to New for asset buttons. So click New. There's a bug in this version of Unity, and probably it's been fixed since then, but there's just a bug there. It won't let you put in the name. You've got to click away and simply do it a second time. So click Ninja Tute, click this field here, go New, and now it will work. So Ninja Tute, Enter, and make sure you do Enter because it needs to actually create that, that asset bundle. Then you simply go up to Assets in the menu, come down to Build Asset Bundles, click it, and wait. Have a drink, breath of fresh air, wait for it to build. In fact, it already has built. As you add more of them, oh no, it's doing it now. As you add more of them, sometimes that process takes longer if you've got a whole bunch of them saved up. And then congratulations, you should be completed with the Unity step and we can do the final part. So, Tabletop Simulator, here we are. I'm actually going to go to the room that has the base mod in it. So navigate to the base Infinity the Game mod. We're going to load this up. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Here it comes now. And the reason we're going to do this is because I want to be in the room with some of the 2D stuff. I'm going to go over to Yuching. I'm going to hit the L button to unlock it, drag left click, move this box out over here. We're going to need that in a minute. Then let's get the Ninja into TTS. Go up to Objects, Components, Custom, Asset Bundle, and then I'm going to go to Main, highlight Browse Local Files, click this, and you're going to have to navigate on this menu here to the folder where you're keeping the asset bundles. So if I just bring up a folder here to show you, 3D projects. So in your TTS mod folder, go through to TTS mod, asset bundles here, and that's where we're keeping all of these asset bundles, and as you can see, I've done a ton of them so far. So once you've found that, you're in the right folder, you find the asset bundle that you just made. It's called Ninja Shoot, and then select that and go Cloud. Just want to pause here and talk about this step. This is actually quite important. So what's about to happen is you're about to upload your asset bundle file onto the Steam cloud server, and it will be associated with your Steam account. What this means is that if you decide later on to delete it, everybody else that comes into TTS to try and use that model you made won't be able to load it. And that's one of the reasons why some new players that go to my map packs and try and load up a map can't see certain assets that are supposed to load up. And sometimes the rest of us can, because we have the asset bundle saved in a cache. So we've downloaded it to our computer in a temporary cache file somewhere, but newer players haven't. That's one reason why you've got to be careful about who controls what assets and what Steam accounts. If you are getting involved in our project, in our 3D mesh making team, you may want to send the asset bundle to me so I can sort of host them all in one place, but not necessarily. You can upload it yourself, you'll have it available, you can put it in your own workshop, but we do ask that you reach out to us and tell us where to find the model so we can bring it and save it into our main sort of group show-off mod as well. Cool, so I'll click Cloud, and that's going to upload. You can give it a name, put it in there, and that's going to bring it in a moment. Then I'm going to click Import. Wait for it to load up, and here, oh, lovely, lovely Ninja. Look at that. Left click him, hold down E to move him around. One thing I have found is that sometimes when you import the model, it actually accidentally drops through the table, and for some reason, the model ends up sitting underneath the table. If that happens to you and you can't find your model on the top there, just come over here and just click on it, and it'll actually pop it back up the top. So TTS is a bit weird like that, but in this case we have managed to bring them in. I do want to point out that if you go up to modding and click on Cloud Manager, it's going to show you all of the stuff that you currently have on the cloud. If I was to come up here and choose options and go delete, that would remove the Ninja, and nobody would be able to use the Ninja in their games. So don't do that, or at least tell us if you're going to do that so we can host it for you. Right, I'm going to go over to the Yuching box over here, and I'm going to right click that, go search. I'm going to find the Ninja. So let's find the 2D version of the Ninja. Let's get the killer hacking device one, since we've clearly got a killer hacking bow model out in the field. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by right clicking the Ninja, and I'm going to go to the Ninja KHD name part. I'm going to click on that. Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and then I'm going to right click this guy, left click the name, and paste. So now we have the Ninja. Right click this guy again, right click him, go down to the spot, left click, Control A, copy, come down to the description, Control V to paste. Then I'm going to actually hit enter a couple of times to add in this extra line, painted by VaulSC. And for you guys bringing in your own painted models or a friend's models, why don't you just add a little bit of text there telling us who painted it? Because we want to appreciate you. We want to make sure that we are showing the world the name of the person who actually did the paint job in real life, which we're doing the photogrammetry of. That will allow us to categorize the models by painter in the section. In this mod, we have everything categorized by faction, but I actually want to do it differently with the 3D project. I'd like to have a little collection for this player, even if it's a number of different factions, so you can differentiate people's collections by, by personality. To get the base strip, obviously it's just a matter of tinting it, so color tint. I happen to know that if you just put in the code FF9000, that will actually get the color for Yuching straight up. There you go, it's orange now. Of course, this Ninja over here, you press 2, goes into camo state, 1 back to the Ninja. You can't do that with our model. So what we'll do is we're going to hold down Control, left click on this guy. So we do him first. It has to be ordered that way, and then Control left click this one. Then I'm going to come back to our Ninja, right click him, go create states. Delete the second one and just merge it with this one, and you go to state 2 and you got another Ninja. Except I did that completely the wrong way, so what you really need to have done is if I select Ninja, by the way, you can always just re-import your asset bundle if something goes wrong in this step, so just bring in the asset bundle back in again. So the correct way to have done that, sorry, was to go to 2, and then you go Control, left-click this guy, Control, left-click this thing, then you go Create States, and it will bring that thing as well, and you go 1, 2, and now you've got this perfect ninja. So hover over him, you can see his stats, you can move him around, press 2 to have the silhouette there for the camo marker. Wonderful. Of course, you're always able to put things in bags, or you can just right-click Save Object. What I like to do is I just pop it in the bag, right-click Save Object, Project, overwrite that. That will then allow me to bring your model over to our show-off area. And then you can just import your ninja in, basically. So that's pretty easy. Objects, saved objects, bring the project bag out. Right-click this thing. Then we can just chuck our ninja in. And we've got the ninja into the thing, and then I just basically go modding, workshop upload, update the workshop from there, and we're good to go. Cool. Well, that's how to get your miniature into TTS. Lastly, with sharing, I just want to reiterate that one way you can do this is to go into Discord, send me a DM, or go into the channel about our project, or you can email me at VaulSC@gmail.com. One thing I'd love you guys to be able to do is, first of all, try and complete this tutorial yourself with my ninja. And if you want to be part of the project where instead of uploading your models, you'll be working on other people's images, that would be extremely helpful. So what we'll be able to do is, after you've shown to me that you can do the project successfully, we can give you access to some folders on Google Drive which will have packs of people's photos, and you can just then convert them into the TTS models for us. We can just share them all as a group, and everybody can make use of those models, which is going to be really amazing. Again, you may be the kind of person that just doesn't really have a decent computer to process this with. You may be great at photography and have great miniatures. You can upload your miniatures to a cloud folder and just simply tell us where to get them. We can then take over and put them into TTS for you, and hopefully accredit you by actually writing on your miniature who made it. We'll bring them into this room. We'll put a note card there just for you, give you a little bit of background about you, and other people can come in and play with your stuff, which is going to be amazing. Oof. Well, this has been a really exciting tutorial. Hopefully I covered off everything and it was reasonably easy to follow. Hit me up with any questions if you need to, but don't forget the links in the video description will take you through the online written version, which we'll be continuing to update. And I do wish you best of luck in getting some wonderful miniatures into Tabletop Simulator so we can use them. Thank you so much, guys. This has been VaulSC. Really enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next one.